Hello, everyone. Steve Westman, thank you for joining me. This is a very special show today. I have got, okay, we have a big announcement today. I've got, and I'm going to announce them, I'm going to basically bring him in right away, but thank you for this. I'm excited to do this today. We're going to be able to announce the next two Rhino High Fidelity albums. Let's bring him in. Mr. Patrick Milligan, the A&R for Rhino High Fidelity. If I can find him here, let me just grab him. Mr. Milligan, how are you?
Sorry, doing good. How are y'all doing?
Really good. Thank you for doing this, by the way. This is a real honor to basically being able to make this announcement today on this channel live. I'm really excited to do this, and I know we've had a lot of comments already. There's people already sort of guessing what it might be, so we were sort of looking at those ones sort of before we went live today. But the one thing I'll ask you before we announce the two titles, like, how do you guys come up with, or really come up with these titles so you're not being redundant? Like, what's the processes that you guys go through for this?
Well, we do look at a lot of different things. I mean, first of all, obviously good sounding records. So far, we've been sticking with analog records, so that might change at some point.
Okay.
I also do look at things, what's been done recently on titles, because we don't want to crowd the market with overdoing things too many times. So that's why some of the things you see, some of the jazz things we've done are great underappreciated albums, but they haven't been done to death. So it sort of leaves room to do something new with those. But it's records we love. And just, as this has been going on and we've been getting a really great response, we're also listening to people's suggestions and trying to work into the schedule some of the things that people are asking for.
And I know we're going to make this announcement at some point today, the two records, but I mean, there's been a lot. And I know when we first met, I've talked to you about the self-titled Black Sabbath. I mean, is that stuff that you guys would possibly be working on in the future? Like, what's the process is there for something like that?
There have been a lot of requests for that. So that is something that we're going to look into for sure, I think, but I can't commit to it, but that is something that there have been a tremendous amount of requests for. So
well, that would be really exciting. That would, of course, I mean, and we're all in Rhino High Fidelity is always going to keep it to 5,000. Is that sort of what it will be for every release now going forward?
That might depend on the title.
Okay.
I think, if not to give too much away, I think what might happen if we do bigger things, what it would end up happening is if they went beyond 5,000, it would be the first 5,000 that would be numbered.
Okay. Makes sense. So something, if we did see a Sabbath self-titled first 5,000 numbered and after that type of thing. Okay. I get that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now also too, I mean, when you're picking these high fidelity titles, I know we were talking about, I mean, I think you mentioned it. I mean, the master tape needs to be, obviously in good condition as well, because you want this thing to sound great to us as the listener, right? So is that one thing that you're obviously having to look at prior to picking these titles?
Absolutely. And we've kind of moved some things around because of that. I had a couple of titles scheduled where one of the albums was very damaged. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to swap that out because we can't, I mean, we may look at trying to repair things in the future, depending on what it is. But the goal is to, at least as long as we stay in the analog world, is to always be able to cut from a tape.
Yeah.
The original tape.
Well, and there's also sometimes too, there are some early 80s titles that would have been, recorded digitally, right? So, I mean, there's those options too.
And that's something we don't want to leave off the table. There's some great sounding records from the 80s and 90s that were, recorded at 44, 116 bits. So,
right. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Kevin Gray, he'll make it sound good.
I know
what it is. So,
well, I want to start. We want to do the release right away. I did notice one thing. One of the viewers here, Buckingham Nicks, that album. I don't know what you can do about that, but that's another idea. I have the original. I think it's just a fantastic sort of prelude to their self-titled album. So there's another option.
It's a great record. I actually bought that. I won't say when it came out, but after the Fleetwood Mac self-titled and I became a fan, I went out and sought that out and bought it. But I love that album. I still have my original copy. So if we had a chance, we'd jump at it.
I know you're a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. So, I mean, that's without, okay, well, there you go. Hopefully that happens. So I'm going to put you full screen, Patrick, so you can announce the very first I guess we'll start with the jazz title first, and then let the viewers know. I'll let the viewers know it's November 17th. These titles will be live on your website.
Yeah, Friday they will be live, and they will start shipping as well.
So let's see the first one.
All right.
Released November 17th. What do we have?
Lawrence Welk live at the Troubadour.
Everyone just hung up on us. So what do we got there?
It's Herbie Hancock's Crossings.
And that was
Herbie's going to open it, so maybe we get a little of the glare off of the screen there.
And so that was released in 1972.
Yes, and this was his third of his 3 Warner albums, in between his Blue Note period and his Columbia period. And after he went to Columbia, of course, his first album was actually with this same band, and a very similar approach. But by his second album for Columbia, it was the Headhunters album with Camellia and everything. So he just kind of went huge. So people are very familiar with his Blue Note catalog, which is fantastic, and the Columbia stuff, but the Warner stuff kind of gets overlooked. So again, kind of a really great but overlooked jazz album. So I hope people will be excited about this. Great sounding record. This was kind of the first time that Herbie had really worked with synthesizers. So it's kind of a new approach and a new sound. And Patrick Gleason, who is a synthesizer specialist, was brought in to sort of help program synthesizers and play, and is on this album, had a huge impact on the sonic imprint, and went on to play with Herbie on the next album as well. But Patrick wrote notes for this, so we get his insight from the sessions. And as usual, we have a nice heavy gatefold with the original inner gatefold here. And we have one of my favorite things about these hi-fi titles is the insert that has a picture of the tape box on the front and back, side 1, side 2. And the inside, as I mentioned, notes by Patrick Gleason talking about the making of the record. Some cool Herbie photos of the era there. So yeah. And Kevin, as usual, did an outstanding job cutting this. It's glorious to listen to. So it's, again, this is not an obvious choice, but it's a great record, and I'm hoping that people will, get excited about it and take a listen. And maybe if you don't know it, it's a chance to discover it. So
this is Hancock. It was, what was it called? The Mowandishi sort of era that he
Mondishi, yeah.
Mondishi, yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically 3 albums. It was the album before this, which I think that was the title of, and then,
I believe so, yeah.
And then Sextant, the first Columbia album. So
he did really well. I mean, he went from 71, 72, 73, basically all these albums, a lot of output then. I mean, he was
and the Warner period is interestingly transitional too. It's like he's starting to embrace more, electric piano and things like that, and some of the influence of the projects he did with Miles Davis, as Miles Davis was verging into fusion. So.
And then with Gleason, I know with Gleason, I guess they had him in for the overdubs at that point, and then they decided, oh no, I guess Hancock just liked what he had to do. He said, no, we want this guy as part of the group, I think is what happened.
Yeah, he came in. He's even listed on the album as an additional musician, but by the next album, he's part of the band, and he toured with them some. He explains in the notes too that this whole operation of all these people for Herbie to tour them was just kind of not financially feasible, so he had to sort of cut the group down. And then by Headhunters, I'm sure he was commanding more for his appearances and things.
Right. So this album is going to be 5,000 is going to be the release press. Now let's talk to the viewers as well about sort of, we know we're doing these, and we had been doing these sort of quarterly releases. Are we going to be changing that going forward? What's the plan with Rhino's Hi-Fi?
We're going to go from 4 releases a year to, doing them bi-monthly. So 6.
Oh, wow.
It's 12, 2 each time. So every other month, we'll have new titles. So we'll have some on, I believe, January 12th will be the next 2.
So we have November 17th and then January 12th. And then after that, I guess March would be the next.
So, and then May. Yeah.
Okay. And I know we addressed it at the top, but I mean, I can't stress enough how many people want to see the Black Sabbath self-titled. Hopefully you're working on that with Ozzy and the boys to get. Do you have to negotiate with the band in your position? Is that still the way
Yeah,
it works?
we do.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're, we do a lot with them, so we have a good relationship. And I mean, we deal with Sharon and the management of everybody else. So it's
So when you're decided as the Rhino A&R, you're like, okay, guys, I have this high fidelity label here. I got some demand for this self-titled. Does it go to their management first, and that's sort of how the communication flows, or something like that?
pretty much. I mean, depending on what it is, usually what we would do is check rights on something like that.
Okay.
So we don't really have to do that. But yeah, before we would schedule or do any work, we would always get approvals on everything. And I'm not the A&R person for Black Sabbath. We have a guy in the UK, Hugh Gilmore, that does all that. So I would, anything we do, we go through him. And
you would basically talk to Hugh and say, Hugh, this is what we want, and if he can release the tapes. Is that how that works, or is it up to?
No, actually, the Black Sabbath deal is strange.
Okay.
Because Hugh is in the UK and he helps us oversee the catalog, but we don't have rights in the UK. Warner Brothers has rights in the US and Canada, and we have tapes in our library.
So if you were to do that, it would be from the tapes in your library. For the cut here.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you can't, because of the licensing agreements, you can't use the UK stuff.
No, it's not that. We just can't release it in the UK.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Well, good to know. I was looking at the questions here. If anyone else has some questions here, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Sabbath. So picking Kevin as sort of your master engineer, I mean, we both know Kevin very well. We just know how meticulous he is and sort of such a perfectionist. So I can't imagine. I mean, obviously, you listened to the test pressings. What were your initial thoughts of Herbie Hancock's Crossings album when you first dropped that needle down?
It's so rich and so full, and there's the presence in it. It's a very unique sonic record, just again with Herbie starting to implement synthesizers, and it's kind of there's parts of it that are very free form, but it makes the album more engaging to me. I mean, you can go stream it and it's great, but when you hear it like this, it's kind of how it was supposed to be heard.
So we're getting a lot of requests here. Early Fleetwood Mac. I think if you guys are just joining us, Patrick is a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. So if he can do it, he will. That's pretty much what I'm hearing from you, right?
Absolutely. No, I mean, again, we started off with, not the hugest, most obvious records. I mean, the Cars one obviously is a pretty big record and sold really well and did well. But trying to also give love to some things that we think are great records and great sounding records that aren't, necessarily as obvious. But I think as we've seen the success of this, I think we are starting to look at trying to, look at bigger titles. So
Tracy Chapman.
I just saw somebody put Tower of Power. Boy,
yeah, I
saw
that. Here we go.
I had that on my list, but the people in commerce were like, I don't know. But that's
really
a sounding record. I'm going to get there eventually, George.
George Borden, he's on my show a lot. George, Tower of Power. That's a one for your list, Patrick. That'd be great. Now, before we get on to the rock title here, I know everyone's waiting for that. I think we need to address sort of the packaging and the shipping. I know a lot of people have been, talk to me about it or message me because I've had you on the show. Can we address the shipping and packaging issues?
We absolutely can. I was very glad that you let me know that people were having issues. You were the first one to tell me. And I know that people had some frustration with customer service, which is kind of basically one person. So it takes a while sometimes, and you get automated replies. And so I know that's frustrating. You hooked me up directly with some people that I was able to send replacements to, but we'll certainly try to make it right. But I think the more important thing is to let you know that because of this happening, we upped our packaging, and we now have forgetting what they call them. But at any rate, they're sort of like winged. So they protect the corners. They'll be tighter. They won't be floating around and banging around in a box like they were before. And the last batch of hi-fis went out that way, and many people got back to us and said they were all great and fine. So I think we've solved the issue.
And then, so how do we address if you have
flash mailers? That's it.
Yeah. How do we address if someone still hasn't been able to get a hold of customer service? I mean, how would you address that for some of your customers?
It's a good question. I hate to give out my email address because there's a billion people coming to me.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to be unanswered. But
Okay.
if you don't mind, if you hear of anybody that's not heard back, please let me know, and
I will. So just go through me. I mean, my email.
Yeah.
I mean, you can comment on my channel. It's fine, and I'll get a hold of Patrick that way, and we can deal with it. Oh, here's one too. Before we get to the rock title, Nightfly as a jazz title. I mean, that would be interesting. I mean, I love the night. I have the Nightfly, which I have the one step, the MoFi one step.
We've been talking about digital, and that someday we're going to have to get around to digital. That's the album.
That would be your digital pick.
That's the one I'm looking at, and that's the one that's probably going to be the first digital one.
So would Nightfly, would you have to, obviously, again, if you're to release that one, you'd have to talk to Donald Fagen directly and deal with him directly? Is that
we deal with his management? Yeah, because we put
just
that record out before in other forms and the Steely Dan records that we have. So
yeah. Okay, so I guess I don't have a drum roll, but I think everyone, we're halfway through this show. We're going to go to the top of the hour. I'm going to put you full screen, Patrick, because I think everyone's hang on. Let me put you full screen. You're going to do this here and go.
The second one is Sean Cassidy, Wasp.
Oh my gosh, get your orders ready.
Doobie Brothers, The Captain and Me.
Woohoo!
50th anniversary. This was something you ask about getting permissions and things like that. The Doobie Brothers were very happy that we decided to do this because they wanted to celebrate the 50th anniversary of this record. So it sounds fantastic. Let me open it and show you the goodies inside. The liner notes on this one are very special because they are taken from the book that Patrick Simmons and Tom Johnston wrote, their autobiography called Long Train Runnin'. And we excerpted from the chapter about the making of the album. And it's we're going to have a special bundle on this too, where you can buy a copy of the record and a copy of the book signed by them. We have 300 of those, and that will be available on December 1st.
Now the high fidelity version record,
yes, it'll be this very record, but bundled with their signed book. Will
that be on the website in November 17th?
It will be, yeah. Okay. And I think it's the retail for these individually is $39.98. I think it's $59.98 with the book. So
with the book, okay,
yeah,
good deal.
So here we go again. The original inner gatefold. The Doobie Brothers having a tea party on an abandoned freeway. And then the insert. So you can have your own copy of the actual tape boxes. And as I said, notes by Tom and Patrick, and some mastering notes from our archives there, just to geek out as much as we can.
Who is the initial mastering engineer on that cut? Does it say on those notes?
I believe the original, I think it was Ted Jensen.
It was, yeah, from Sterling.
I think so. I mean, we don't have it here because we have it remastered, but I think that's who did the original mastering. So there you go.
Well, that
one of their best albums, I think. Some of their biggest hits. A great sounding record, just a wonderful production.
Put the album up again, because a little bit of a fun fact there. I mean, you look in the back. I mean, you got the band in the foreground. In the background, you see that big bridge. So that's the bridge, I think, in San Francisco, and in '71. And then I guess in '94, that bridge collapsed, or that freeway collapsed from the earthquake. So is it still there now? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
probably got repaired.
So that was collapsed during two earthquakes, '71 and then again in 1994 in San Francisco. But that's another one. 1973. I mean, big year for me. I turn 50 next week, as we're talking about. So I mean,
that's early birthday.
Well, thank you. And this is a nice birthday present to know what's going on. But so you're doing a lot of stuff, sort of because it's a big celebratory year, the 50th year in 1973. Is that another reason why you're putting that out there?
That's the Captain and Me for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had done. We're doing another series on Rhino.com called Rhino Reds. That we did sort of 4 albums, one batch from the 60s, one from the 70s, one from the 80s on red vinyl, and they each came with a 45. That was celebrating the 45th anniversary of Rhino, so it's on Rhino red vinyl. And we did minute by minute there. When we went to management to get their approval, they were like, well, that's okay, but it's the 50th anniversary of Captain and Me. Shouldn't we do something with that? And I said, yes, we should. A high fidelity. And they loved it. So that worked out really good.
I mean, I can't imagine. My favorite track on all of them is Dark Eyed Cajun Woman. So I'm excited to hear how that.
It's an epic track, yeah.
Epic. I know they were just recently here in Vancouver in concert. I would assume, and I didn't look at their set list, but I'm assuming that's one of the songs that they would probably play on live in concert, if I'm not mistaken.
Likely, yeah. They have at times. I mean, right now they're touring with Michael McDonald,
right?
And they're going to be doing some dates in a few days, I think, with the opening for the Eagles in place of Steely Dan.
Yeah.
But previously, I think they've done tours where they've played this entire album.
So would this be one of your favorite Doobie albums and of all the ones that they've released?
Absolutely.
What is the song? I know the synthesizer, right? They use that a lot in this album.
Yep.
I think it was Natural Thing.
Yep.
Okay, so that was the one where they really tried to make it sound like the benefit for Mr. Kite, I think. Was that sort of what they were trying to do?
I don't know if that's what they're going for, but now that you say that, I can kind of hear that. But
you know what I mean?
They talk about it a lot in the notes because that was Robert Margouleff and Malcolm Cecil that were Tonto.
Yeah.
And did synthesizer stuff with all those Stevie Wonder albums, those early 70s albums. They worked with Stevie on programming synthesizers. And Robert produced the Devo Freedom of Choice album. But they were the synthesizer guys for this record too. So they were kind of the go-to back in the early 70s for people that had no experience with synthesizers.
Well, in the Captain and Me, some of the songs, I mean, really bluesy, right? And I think really, I can't remember which one it was. It was a real tribute to B.B. King, one of the songs as well that Johnson wrote and sang. So, I mean, you really hear that sort of that bluesy sound, that's for sure, in that album.
Yeah, it's a great record. Just, I mean, not only because there's just so many great songs and recognizable hits and things, but it's got such great stylistic variation that, you know, there's a nice acoustic thing, there's driving rock things. You said Dark Eyed Cajun Woman, that's got, you know, moments that are symphonic and
incredible,
really big and huge. So it's not, you know, kind of locked into one thing. It's really got a lot of variation and different sounds and things. So, and Don Landy and Ted.
And also you're mentioning, oh, of course. And you were mentioning Steely Dan. I think it was Skunk Baxter was on one of the tracks, if not part of this album as well, right? He used to be.
He does. He plays pedal steel on this. Yeah, he plays pedal steel on it. He played. I think this is the first album he played on, and then he played on What Are Once Vices Are Now Habits, and then by the next record, Stampede, he had joined the group. So once Steely Dan stopped touring, he ended up with them.
So Harry's Music Room is asking you, Patrick, what time does the website go live on November 17th so everyone can get their orders?
It's midnight, East Coast time, probably. So probably, you know, 9 o'clock. Yeah. I'm not really sure, but 9 a.m. I would say, but for sure, at least.
So anyone's coming late to the party here, Patrick announced on Friday, Rhino High Fidelity, Herbie Hancock's Crossings album from 1972. And The Captain and Me by the Doobie Brothers, their 50th anniversary, I guess celebrating their 50th anniversary of the album, will be released 12 o'clock a.m. November 17th, live on the Rhino website.
Yep. And then, as I said, too, on December 12th, we'll start shipping the bundle with the book if people want that. So 300 versions of that.
So are you guys really happy so far with the results? I mean, you probably can't talk about sales numbers, but with the sales so far of the first 4?
We have been. And I think, you know, it's, as I said, we've gone for some more out of the way things in terms of like Jocko and Herbie. And, you know, those things are a little slower, I can tell you. But I think once word gets out and people are, I think as part of being the series and people have had good experience with it, they're willing to give it a try. And that's what we're hoping. But yeah, I think, you know, we started doing this not really knowing how it would resonate. And, you know, you do something like this, you're getting into a world where people are pretty critical and you've got to do it right. And we didn't want to get off to a bad start. And I think the first titles that came out, we were so thrilled with the quality and how they turned out, and people's reaction to it. But the fact that the cars sold through 5,000 copies in less than a month was like, I think we're onto something here. We did not see that coming.
Here's a question then. Since you sold the Cars out, we know it was a great success. I mean, sonically the best sounding Cars album or debut album that has ever been cut before by Kevin. Would you go back and print more of those at some point, or is that just 5,000 and done?
That's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. It's the way things work. It would depend on how many we thought we could sell, because the way the cost of packaging works is you get breaks at different quantities. And so many times these days, especially when we do deluxe packages, you kind of try to really figure out what you think you're going to sell over the life of the package, because to go back and reprint it is prohibitive if you're doing smaller quantities. So if we thought we could do 5,000 cars, we'd do another 5 probably at some point. Or if we could get the cost of the packaging at even 2 or 3, then we might consider doing that. So,
okay, but there's going to be, I mean, again, if anyone's coming late, if we get certain titles in the future, sometime next year, you might just do the first 5,000 numbered, and then after that, it'll be non-numbered albums as well.
Yeah, if we think the demand, is worthy of that, because I think a lot of people were disappointed that they couldn't get a Cars album because it sold through so quickly, and we don't want that either. I mean, we were thrilled to sell through, but
well, and I appreciate you're not. I mean, in the fear of missing out, the FOMO thing. I mean, that's been a big thing in the vinyl industry, obviously during COVID, and I appreciate that you guys have recognized that, and putting 5,000 out. I mean, of course, in some titles, if you ever do Black Sabbath, that might be sold out the first day. But I mean, or Fleetwood Mac would be the first day. I mean, hopefully the website doesn't crash if that was to happen. So you'll definitely need more than 5,000 for just those 2 titles. And I know you and I both know that. That's just a no-brainer.
So somebody just asked about doing titles via consumer vote. We have kind of thrown that around. We might do that at some point.
That would be amazing. Put it on your website. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But as I mentioned earlier too, we read people's comments. We're on the boards, and we take that into account. So I'm so glad that this has really been accepted so well and resonated, and people seem to really like it. And it's nice to get the feedback, and we definitely take that into account. So,
and I mean, the market that you're touching upon, I mean, obviously a lot of my viewers are audiophiles, and we want the AAA, from the master tapes, the all analog cuts as well. Some viewers missed it before. I mean, you got to make sure that these tapes are in good quality as well. You can't just pick Black Sabbath because you want to. The tapes have to be to a point where you can actually recut them as well and make them sound great, correct?
Yeah, I might have mentioned it to you before we were live, but I just, in looking at scheduling stuff for the rest of next year, I picked a title and then found out the tape was damaged. I'm like, okay, gonna have to go with a different one then. It's just
okay. So you might it might not be the original master. You might have to take a second generation copy if the tape is mastered. Is that what you guys will do, or you have to sort of discuss that?
Yeah, it would depend on what it was. I mean, for most tapes that are damaged, it's a track or 2. It's not the whole thing. I can tell you, just by way of an example, I produced the Deja Vu 50th, the CSNY thing we did several years ago, and we wanted to cut the album from the analog original master tape, but it's damaged. The beginning of Carry On is just there's oxide loss, and you can hear it. So we got the band to agree to let Chris Bellman, we gave him every source of that we had, every EQ copy, everything there was, let him find the best thing and get it to match the original record. And he actually cut that into the part of the tape that was damaged. They let him do that. So the tape is now repaired, and it's the rest of that track is the original track. It's just the part that was damaged got replaced. So, but it just depends on what the damage is and what you can do to fix it. So.
Well, we'll wrap it up here, Patrick. I'll just say again, thank you so much. We got the Dewey Brothers, The Captain and Me, November 17th. We've got The Crossings, Herbie Hancock. Do you want to put the albums up again so people can see them again? November 17th, live on your website, rhino.com.
This time.
There you go. And then again, with shipping, if you got any shipping issues, just make a comment, or you can email me. My email's in the profile of my YouTube channel as well. And I'll pass those messages on to Patrick as well, and he'll help you with that as well. So
yeah,
this has been this.
Your shippers, that won't be a problem. So
yeah. So and then you once the orders are made on the 17th, you guys are shipping them same day, ready to go, type of thing.
Ready to go.
All right.
In
Well, this
stock.
has been awesome. Awesome. I really appreciate this. Now we're gonna we'll let you go here, Patrick. I'm gonna have my roundtable show now. We'll probably do some I call it the post-mortem of this announcement and other announcements as well. I really appreciate your time on this.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
Yeah, this has been awesome. We'll talk again very soon.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.